Welcome to Growth and Inspire, where we examine topics that make us feel inspired and grow. I'm your host, Bonnie Yam. Today, we will be discussing topics that has a meaningful impact on how you monitor your 401k plan. Our speaker today is Perullo. He is the CEO of RiXtrema. Myself, I have been in the pension consulting business for well over 17 years, and I can easily say this company offers one of the best and most comprehensive quant risk management system in scoring pension plans. Hello, Jan.
Hi, Bonnie. Nice to be
So,
here.
yes, so happy to have you on our podcast. Before we start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your company?
Absolutely. So, I've been on several sides of the business, including financial software, where I am now. I've been a money manager and also an asset allocator. RiXtrema, by nature, is a quantitative, as you mentioned, a quantitative shop. And we started off in risk management, and we kind of brought some of that rigor into our 401k products that we're talking about today. So we have a few different 401k products across the board. The one that we're going to be working with, I think, mostly today and talking about is a way that advisors can look at plans, 401k plans, and find out information about them, how they're managed, and some other things that are filed with the DOL. It's public information, and we assemble all that information and put our quant hats on and try to make it usable for the advisor.
Yeah, wonderful. So I know one of the big thing that you provide is called the plan score, the 401k plan score. So can you comment on what is a plan score and why is it important?
So the plan score, I think, is really critical. And going back to that quant hat that we have, we like a way to compare plans across the board. And that can be, depending on how you want to compare plans, it can be by size or by business that they're in. You need a common metric. And so our plan score is that common metric that we use so that we can take a plan and see relatively how it's performing against either its peers in the same business or peers in the same size group or even the same state.
Wonderful. So what are the elements? What are the things that you look at to calculate the plan score?
So because we have to do this amongst like all, 750,000 plans in the US, we need commonality between all those plans. And in these forms, not to get into any details, but there's long short forms and short forms, and we're limited to what we can get on every plan. And so what we've chosen to do is admin fees, so the administration fees, which are reported on everyone in a section. So administration fees for the plan, we calculate for the plan, and then for the benchmark. Same with average participant contributions, so how much each participant is contributing. The employer, how much the employer contributes to the plan, and then also the rate of return for the plan, which we can figure out based on the metrics and the data in the 5500. And then we simply take an average of those scores, and that's your plan score. And then we subtract any red flags that are what we call severe, so above like a level 5. So some red flags, we're going to talk about red flags in a moment, but some red flags aren't as significant as others, and so we'll subtract the significant red flags from that score.
Let me ask you. Let's say I want to know what is my plan score. What is the average plan score that you think it's acceptable?
Well, so good question. So we take it and we do a percentile rank on all these scores so that so basically the higher the plan score, the better. So our plan scores go from 0 or 1 to 100. Not too many zeros, but 1 to 100. And the higher you are on that means the better you rank relative to those peers, whatever peer class it is. And so there's not necessarily a number that you're trying to get in terms of like average participant contributions, because we need a way to measure this across industries and size and all these things. We percentile rank it all. And so the higher your percentile rank, the better you rank, the higher your score, and the better the plan shows on that.
So let's say, okay, the common elements like plan fees is one. How much money the participant contribute is another one. What are the other ones that's important?
So, the go into the plan score are just the average employer contribution and the rate of return, in addition to the two that you
Oh, rate of
mentioned.
return, the investment
Yeah,
return. So a lot of people
investment
put them
returns.
in really, really safe, and you don't have a very good return.
And that one is a little bit like that one really takes more information. So the plan score, the way that I look at the plan score is it really a way to get, you're benchmarking in a way, but but there's a lot of information that's missing from the plan score. It's a very simple ranking, right? It an advisor needs to have a conversation with their either their client, the plan sponsor, or if they're trying to help the plan sponsor manage that plan.
Hmm.
There's a lot more information that goes into these things. We're limited to what we get on the Form
Of course,
5500,
of
and
course.
it's publicly available and things like that. There's so much more that an advisor needs to do in addition to this. This is
Hmm.
just what we can get
Hmm.
across all plans.
Well, but I think, one main thing is like, most plan look at is they start with the fees. So
Yeah.
so why am I paying twice as much? I'm only getting the same service. So that's always a good discussion point. And of course, all these other elements, they want the plan to be healthy. They want I'm putting up so much time, effort in running the plan. I want you to contribute a little bit. And it's really just for you, okay? It's
Yeah.
for your own retirement. So I like to be able to see that, the back end that you actually, taking advantage of all this tax deferred savings. So, I understand that. And then basically you said, okay, so there are a couple elements. And the most important is because, okay, so let's say I'm a hotel group, so I have lots of employees, and a lot of them are probably part-timers too. So maybe they're not as interested. So it's also very important that you compare it with the same industry sector. So
Absolutely.
hotel group with a lot of employees, maybe temporary, permanent, staff turnover pretty high, so, measure against the same industry sector will give you a lot more meaningful data.
100%, because you might have in that hotel group 10,000 employees, but so does a large bank or a mid-sized bank, and the bank employees are typically higher paid than the hotel employees, and so they're able to contribute more. So you can't really compare. You are
No,
comparing apples
no,
to apples.
yeah, yeah.
But there is a point to comparing against size, because once you have a certain amount of assets in your plan, you're able to use the plan for scale. You're able to use your plan to, maybe negotiate better fees and things like that. So
Yeah. Oh,
there
yeah.
are reasons to look at,
Mhm.
even a hotel plan against size. So you're 100% right. It's not a one size fits all answer, which is really why, smart advisors need to be involved in interpreting the data that we supply.
Also, because you also provide year over year, my plan score, is it going up? Is it going down? So what
Absolutely.
happened? So it's also good to track that. Hey, look, I'm doing something right. It's going up now. So what did I do?
That's right. You're putting effort in, like you mentioned. You're putting effort in. Is that paying off? Is that showing? And I think that a lot of plan sponsors aren't really aware of what that Form 5500 looks like and how it compares against others. So I think it's an important it's an
Definitely.
important exercise.
Definitely. It's just that there's so many data points. Look at the 5,500. Like somebody to help me pull all those like really important data statistics and monitoring it for me year over year. How am I doing? And how am I
Yeah,
doing against my peers? I'm interested. I'm curious too. So
absolutely.
yeah, I think that's a very, very good tool. I think there's so much into it. I think people should really investigate a little further because um, there's just a lot of nuggets. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot there.
Yeah. So maybe, can you comment on other things that you think are important in maintaining a healthy plan?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important things I think that goes into maintaining a healthy plan are really studying the assets in your plan lineup. If you look at the fiduciary lawsuits that have come across the wire in the past, 7 or 8 years, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 10 years, they've all dealt with expensive options. Right? I can't say all of them. Many of them have dealt with expensive plan options. So you're invested in an ETF fund for a percent management fee when there's one available for 10 basis points. So things like that can really get you in trouble as a plan sponsor, and you might not even be aware of it because it's not really your job to go out and benchmark all these things. We do have tools that can help you benchmark it, but a good advisor is going to be able to see things like that as well and say, well, what are the options that are in this plan? How much are they? And is this a well constructed plan lineup for the participants?
Do you have some tools that help provide alternatives like
We do.
yeah, that's great. So I can like upload my plan investment lineup, and then I want to be able to find the best alternative at the lowest cost. So we can leverage on your tool, right? That's fantastic.
Absolutely. And even if you don't choose the lower cost alternative, documenting why. there may be a good reason that you have something that's
Right.
50 basis points versus 35 basis points, right? I mean, that's a smaller gap. I mean, the 1% to 10 basis points is a pretty big gap for an ETF
Right, right, right,
or
right.
benchmark.
Yeah, the
But,
big ones are doing well.
there are reasons that you can have more expensive plan options in your lineup if you have the other alternatives as well. And so documenting that, I think, is a really important exercise and something that, I would imagine that you would do.
Yeah, everybody wants more money, you know,
Yeah.
so why not? Yeah, I think that's great. You know, you've this is like some great sharing. How about let's move on to the other topic that we want to talk about, which is the red flags. It's also very
Mhm.
important because you don't want to get audited. Like, it can be a lot of money, a lot of pain, you know. Yeah. So can you share like how your software can help track the red flags and what we can do about it?
So we have a lot of red flags in the software, and the ones that are the most common are actually, luckily, I think the easiest to fix as well,
Yeah.
which is I think a big deal because you get some of these red flags, and one of the red flags, for example, is uh, it was an erroneous payment or a late payment or something like that. Well, those things can be fixed, but it might have been a one-time thing, and that's going to get flagged. But that's not as important of a red flag to fix in the future. I mean, it is important to fix in the future, but it might be a one-time thing. Things like no QDIA, qualified default investment alternative,
No.
no automatic enrollment, and not 404C compliant are the most common red flags that we have on the system. And I think that those are so easy to fix that they shouldn't exist. Like no plan should not be 404C compliant. I mean, just for their own fiduciary
You know what, Ryan,
well-being.
can you explain a little bit about 403C? I
Yeah,
don't think you know what it is.
404C. Yeah, it's so there's a couple things to it. One, it says that you have to have documented the plan and made it available for your participants. So what's the purpose of the plan and things like that. But the big thing about it is a participant has to be able to have an investment lineup that they can get a truly diversified portfolio. So it's got to be a well diversified investment plan lineup. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you can't have all large cap equity funds as a selection for your plan. You have to have other types of funds, and those can be anything from bond funds, commodity funds, or whatever you want that can help diversify. But the more choices, the better. And that doesn't include the target date funds or whatever else you might have in there. So outside of those, can I, as a participant, create a well diversified portfolio? And that's 404C compliant. I mean it's really a rather simple thing in terms of documenting and making sure that the participants can see the information and choose their lineup, making sure they have the ability to choose a diversified
Platform,
portfolio
yeah.
of assets, and it's really quite simple, and it lowers the sponsor's fiduciary responsibility.
But do you think plan sponsor aware of it? I think there are a lot of red flags. I mean, they're just like so concerned about finish filing for the 5,500. I'm not sure they actually know the red flags because I do see sometimes, okay, like what you said, okay, there's like they don't have a default fund, or maybe they forgot
Yeah,
about no QTIA.
yeah,
And then maybe some of the default fund it's not supposed to be a stable value. It has to be
right.
because you want to be able to grow, the money continue to grow. So you don't want to put in the safest investment if somebody forgot to choose. So
That's right.
that's also not good. And then there are a lot, but like what you said, some of them are easily fixed, but actually just to have your software to pull out all those, hey, red flag 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, maybe I should give a call to somebody. Let's fix that.
Yeah.
So that'd be good. I mean, I think there's like a lot of interesting things just to have like a review, quick review using your software, and it doesn't take a lot of time, five,
No,
ten
no.
minutes.
I mean,
Sit down all
honestly,
day.
I think that even if the sponsor is just made aware of some of these things, then they can ask the question like, why don't we have a QDIA, right?
That's right.
That's pretty simple. I mean,
Yep.
why is it sitting in like a money market fund not making money? I mean, that's not. Can we do better for our participants? I mean, yeah, you can. And so let's do better because I mean, I think that you're right. I don't believe that most plan sponsors are aware of the minutia of what goes into a 401k plan. It's not most of their jobs.
Much work.
Most of the time they're the hotel business, right? I mean, they don't want to spend time looking at the 401k plan. That's not what they want to do.
Very
That's not what they're
complex
good at.
too. I mean, there's so many different ways of you get charged. And then who has the time? I mean, I need to have database to be able to compare this investment against that investment, who's doing well, what's not doing so well.
It's not even having the time. It's having
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ability, the education. Most of these people
I don't
aren't
have the
in
time.
finance. Things that we
That's
take
right.
as
Yeah.
being in finance for granted, like easy to I'm going to compare fund one and fund two and look at like you might not know everything that you should be looking at and what's a good investment versus a not so good one. So yeah, I think that most sponsors are not really aware of these things.
Yeah. What about the downside risks if they not being fixed immediately? Can you talk
Well, I mean,
about
some of
downside?
the most common ones, I don't know that there's a huge downside risk of not fixing your QDIA immediately. I mean, I could see a time when, maybe if somebody is just being in like a money market fund for all these years, they come back and they want to sue the, employer. That could happen. But the downside risks are always lawsuits. I mean, there's always different
That's
lawsuits for
exactly it.
not
Yeah.
fixing something. I mean, that's your biggest downside risk. Um, you know, those lawyers are and you can Google these suits. They started off at the really large companies. Only the huge companies would get it because they have all these
More
assets in
money.
the plan and they can afford to pay. But now as plans get fixed, they're going further and further down the structure. Now I don't know where they stop, and maybe they do these collective suits. I don't know,
Mm.
but they found a way to make some money, and they're not going to stop. And so you really want to make sure that anything that you have in your plan is buttoned up. Like I said, just documenting why you have the lineup that you have is a really important step to someone coming back later and saying, how could you have this fund? It didn't perform well over the next 5 years.
Right,
Well, I
right.
didn't know how it was going to perform over the next 5 years. This is why we chose it at the time.
Mhm.
Those things are important, and they're pretty simple to do, and it allows you as either an advisor or a sponsor to go back in 5 years and say, why did we do this? Does it still stand?
I
So
think it's like sometimes you might get audited for a plan. If I do all this fiduciary work and document them and you have the software, the tool from the back end, okay, this is the plan cost. I am not compared right in the middle, okay? Not too high, not too low. It should be okay. And then all the red flags, okay, might take some time to fix some of them, but you have a to-do list, so get it done.
exactly,
And then
that's
next
right.
year, all right, good, I mean, all that it's great for documentation, a process that you are trying to get the plan to perform better and better in the future years. So
Absolutely.
that's why I think the tool is highly recommended.
Good. Thank you.
So yeah, so anything else you want to add?
Well, I think that one of the things that can be frustrating for um, advisors, I think, is that one of the biggest places where you can add, well, not one of the biggest places, but a big place where you can add value is in that plan lineup. Like I said, whether it's the diversification, like how do you measure diversification, the costs, the fees associated with those funds. It's really simple to ask a smaller plan, which isn't required to provide those things to the DOL, for that lineup. And like you said, you can just upload that into our system and do something like that, or somewhere else. I mean, it's important to do that analysis. And just because it isn't supplied by law doesn't
Mhm.
mean that they don't have it and they can't supply it to you, so you can't
Right,
help them.
right. Yeah.
So I think
Right.
that, not taking for granted that they have, just because you can't see it, that they have things buttoned up, or asking questions, and also not going in like what the information that we've given you is the Bible because they posted it. Because a lot of times if you go in with your guns blazing and saying you have all these red flags, and your plan's terrible, well, obviously their defenses go up first. There's ways that you're proposing to work with them, help them. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that you're trying to help these plan sponsors in a collaborative way to get their plans better, to
Mhm.
reduce their fiduciary duty, liability rather, and to have better outcomes for their participants.
I absolutely agree. And this is a simple process. It doesn't take a lot of time. So we just have to, you know what, but maybe I should just add, anybody who's watching this video, if they're interested, and they want to get a plan score, by all means, give us a call. I'm happy to help. Call us at 914-574-5023, or just email me at bonnie@pensionmaxima.com, and we're going to give you a quick assessment using the Extrema software program.
Yeah, I think everybody should do that. I mean, it's really, it's very simple because it's what people are seeing. Because there's our software, there's other softwares, and people are seeing this. It's public information. So if you don't like what it says, You got to fix it.
I know, I know. This is a great starting point. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. I think I learned quite a lot. There's a lot of great information, but the next step is to dive in. Let's get started, right? Okay. So
Exactly.
thank you for today's joining me in today's podcast. Until next time, let's keep learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie.